So we'd like to invite on stage Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. Big round of applause. Mr. Arif Mohammad Khan, Mr. Balwant Singh Rabuwalia, and Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman. Please, can we have the panelists up on stage? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome them with a big round of applause.
All right. Okay. I don't need to introduce any of the panelists here. All of them are very well-known politicians, and all of them with very serious views about the state of political affairs and the state of economic affairs. So lots to talk about. I can see people are still streaming in. So hopefully we'll have a good engaging 15-20 minute session. Let me first introduce the topic before all of you. What we really want to look at is how can the youth of the country be looked at in a meaningful, constructive role by the political class of our country. And just a short while back, when I was engaging with representatives of civil society, the point that I was trying to make was that one, by and large, senses a great deal of disenchantment, disillusionment against the manner in which the entire political discourse has been going on in our country for some time. And there is a sense of disillusionment across political parties. How can the youth of this country be looked upon to ensure that we can move beyond that disillusionment? What is it that the political class needs to do to engage more effectively with the youth of the country? Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, spokesperson of the Congress Party. Let me first begin with you, sir. What do you believe are 2 to 3 basic steps which the political class needs to take, sir, to move beyond the sense of disillusionment which one sees?
Let me start by saying, Bhupendra, that when you talk of aspirational India, you talk of young India. And when you talk of young India, you talk of aspirational India. You can see the raw energy which I saw in just 5 minutes when I came in here and sat and saw that performance. And you can see that same raw energy in the occupants of this auditorium. And I think any political formation or political party which even slightly ignores that, does that at its own peril. It would require a very foolish party to do it. Now, since your questions are specific, since youth have confidence, courage and candor, let's be direct and let's be forthright. The wish list can be very large. I mean, I have a large wish list, but you're asking for 2 or 3 or 4 priority items. I think the first is that the youth need an assurance that their immediate medium-term future and their long-term future, when they are no more youth, is reasonably secure. And I think governments, and I don't want to make this political, I don't want to make it government and non-government, I think those in public life have to engage with every opportunity to provide that reassurance. Let me give you a small example, and let me say here, it is wrong to think that government should do it. In Jammu and Kashmir, for example, a very nice small project, and this is a very good example, called Udaan was started, whereby 25,000 youth from Jammu and Kashmir were to be trained. Because they have no employability skills in India, only 2% of the youth overall have technical skills. And that is a public-private partnership. Corporates from Bombay have been involved in that. Similarly, another scheme in Jammu and Kashmir, Himayat, has already trained 2,000 youth. Now, therefore, these kind of things, the last budget, I'm glad to tell you, has allocated 1,000 crores only to improve skill development amongst youth. Because don't mix up merely youth sitting here in this auditorium, merely the youth coming to India Gate, merely the youth being very articulate and aggressive in urban centers, but there is a large volume of rural youth. And we need to look at that. So that's point number one. Point number two is, I think, education. And that starts from childhood, which goes on to youth. We have, prior to the RTE, the right to education, 50% of primary school enrollees dropped out. And believe me, only 17% continued after class 12. So 50% left after class 8, 17% alone continued after 12. No youth, and I don't know where you define youth, but youth starts somewhere, I think, in the mid-teens and goes on to at least 40s. No youth can have a secure future if our education bedrock is that. And third and last, only to be forced to make a choice of three, there are many more, I think, is the whole feeling of connectivity with parties. And there I think the fault lies, of course, with the parties, mine included, but it also lies with the youth. The youth today are aggressive, demanding, transparent. They are candid. But they have to be not iconoclastic for the sake of being iconoclastic. They have to be constructive. You can demolish, you can reject, but you should also suggest how to construct. And I think that connectivity is a two-way street, it's a two-way passage, and every political party must aspire to that.
Okay, also joining us is Rahul Narvekar of the Shiv Sena. Before I invite Rahul to make his introductory comments, let me just get Nirmala Sitharaman to respond to the points being made here by Abhishek Manu Singhvi. Nirmala ji, the point that I have been trying to highlight here at this session is that, is it not true that the youth of the country in particular do feel disillusioned with what they see in front of them, whether it is parliament or its state assemblies? By and large, there is a sense of disconnect. Firstly, do you agree or disagree? If you do agree, what do you think, ma'am, could be done by the political class to engage with the youth effectively?
I don't think youth are disillusioned. Otherwise, you are not going to have them here like this. They are certainly frustrated that many of the things which are very obvious and very apparent are not being pursued further. So if anything, I would rapidly say 5 different things which political parties, be they in the opposition or in the ruling, should do to, one, access the youth, involve them in everything that is happening at whatever level, and then engage with them to give them a sense of ownership and to make it possible for every youth everywhere in the sense of universalize it. As I was thinking about it this morning, if you notice, you've heard of vowels in English and consonants. There are only 5 vowels to about 21 consonants in English. And the 5 points that I said actually go through that. Access, involve, engage, give them a sense of ownership, and finally universalize the youth power in this country. And therefore, whether you're talking of education, thank you. So whether you're talking of education, whether you're talking of health, whether you're talking of job, skill, whatever be it, give access to the youth, involve them, engage with them to understand how best they want to take it forward, and give them a sense of ownership, and finally make it accessible for everybody. Youth from the rural areas, youth from urban areas, educated, not so educated, and youth from every corner of this country. Then you find a force multiplier, which is what has been working with a great sense of frustration in the last 3 years, saying, why is this country like this now? That's why they came out, irrespective of whoever it was. Every movement saw youth pushing their agenda. And therefore, I don't think they are disillusioned. They are frustrated, certainly, because nothing seems to be going positive. Now it's our business to engage with them and make them feel one and wanted.
Arif Mohammad Khan, as someone who has worked with multiple political parties in our political system, do you believe, sir, that political parties really attach that kind of seriousness to the youth? Now in times of social media, Facebook and Twitter, one sees a lot of emphasis being suddenly put on youth. But do you get a sense that all these years in our independent country, was youth given that kind of priority, sir, by political class?
Well, when you are talking of youth, you are talking of the young citizens of the country. I don't think, I'm going to be very candid, I don't think in the political discourse, even the citizen of this country matters. What to say of young citizens? The only thing that matters to the political party are the block votes.
So is youth also, according to you,
Please
just a block?
let me
Just a block.
complete it. No, youth, they are the young citizens. If you are talking of, if you divide the youth in segments, then yes, they will become attractive to the political establishment. But if you are talking of the youth as young citizens of India, even citizens do not figure anywhere in the political discourse of the political establishment. So basically, when we are talking, when we mention about the career, about the jobs, we are talking or secure future. Always remember, ambition uninspired by an ideal of character makes man unscrupulous. It is scruples which come in the way of ambition. It is always ideals. I don't think that the youth of this country is concerned only about their jobs. They are only concerned about their secure future. How do they feel as Indians, as young Indians? We have the political establishment, look at what is happening. Where the topmost man in the country says, मैं मजबूर हूं. If you are having a political establishment where the head of the establishment says मैं मजबूर हूं, where they are going to look for?
Again, I want to look at the very basic political class, the very basic political discourse of the country. And maybe Rahul, you can pick up the mic and you can respond to this one. Post 26/11, Rahul, when the unfortunate Mumbai terror strikes happened, we saw in large numbers, people coming out on the streets of Mumbai, streets of Delhi, many places. But when it came, for instance, the question of voting at the level of municipal wards, in assembly polls, in South Mumbai, for instance, one doesn't see that kind of polling percentage taking place. And when I was looking at the basic figures there, I saw that a large percentage of those voters there indeed is a very, very young population. Is there a disconnect, Rahul, according to you, between the young of this country and the political class?
Absolutely. Upen, first of all, good evening to all of you all. And with regards to your question, you're absolutely right. Number one, when we spoke about 26/11 and when there was a huge candle march in South Mumbai at Gateway of India, one thought that people are no more going to take it sitting down. It's probably our resilience that is being taken for granted. It's probably the disappointment within the youth and the electorate at large that's not getting them out. So I think these are issues which are creating a disconnect between the electorate and the constituents. But having said that, I also need to tell you, we all know that India per se is one of the youngest, if you go by the age bar, it's one of the youngest nations in the world today. By 2020, the average age of the country is going to be 29 years. Vis-a-vis China and America is going to be just about 35. The Europe's going to be about 45. So we have the advantage of having the youngest population. But are we really using this advantage for the benefit of the nation? And the answer is clearly no. So when we have a parliament, the Lok Sabha of 544 members, less than 15% of the Lok Sabha has youth representation. We have just about 71 members in the Lok Sabha who are between the age group of 25 to 40. Today the youth of India no more wants to be governed and does not look at aspirations to be fulfilled by good governance, but they want to be a part of governance. So I think the way forward would be to involve youth in governance, giving them the opportunity to lead this country.
But how is that possible? And Dr. Singhvi, maybe you can answer this question. As journalists, we often look at his whole theory of compulsions of coalition politics. And often one realizes that because of the times that we're living in, because of the nature of our parliamentary democracy, sometimes taking decisions becomes very, very difficult simply because of the sheer contradictions which also exist in running of a coalition. Is it not true, Dr. Singhvi, according to you, that according to the young people of the country, the compromises which the political class ends up making because of coalitions leads to a perception of indecision? How do you move beyond that, sir?
There is no doubt that largely what you are saying is true. There is no doubt that the youth, by definition, are dynamic. They want quick decisions. They want to move on. And as I said, most importantly, they are candid. There is a straight speak about them. And that sits rather uncomfortably with the inherent ambivalence of parliamentary politics. I think that is something which cuts across the entire political class, and that disconnect is basic. But what's the answer? I mean, you can keep on lamenting. You have to look a little more closely. It's not enough just to have so-called youth, young people, inverted commas, in parliament or in assemblies. You need to have really empowered persons there. For example, the statistic my friend here gave just now, unfortunately, and I again said, I'm saying it across the board, a large number of that youth profile is what I call privileged youth. People who are sons or daughters or close relatives of established political figures. And that is not really a youth profile in parliament. Now, let me give you an example of how it has happened, how it has been achieved, how the contrary has been achieved, namely what we want to achieve at a political party's youth level. And again, I don't want to make it sound political, but I'm giving an example of the Youth Congress. In fact, very interestingly, Bhupendra, in the Youth Congress, we have received criticism and even brickbats from the senior leaders because over the last 8 years or so, a silent revolution has happened in terms of access, involvement, engagement, participation. Over 1.5 crore people, and the figure is higher now, I'm giving you a slightly dated figure, have been enrolled as genuine primary members subject to eligibility, and over some 35 odd lakhs are holding elective positions. It's been done by an independent election commission of retired people, fiercely independent like Lingdo and Krishnamurthy, former CECs. It's been done by allowing people to fill up forms, to have membership drives, to contest at the block level, at the district level, at the state level, and so on. Now let me tell you, in the Congress party, the established forces, and they include status quoist forces, don't quite like it. I'm proud to say that we are the only party which have had elections at that level, and it's led to a lot of heartburn because a man whom you thought was nothing, yesterday's nincompoop, has become to hold an elective position. But that is the way you have engaged them, and while it has not percolated to the parliament or assembly yet, I think this is a very important beginning, because this cadre of 35 to 40 odd lakh elected and 1.5 crore primary membership will move up with time. And I think all parties have to have this elective approach from the youth level bottom, although in our case it has happened in the Youth Congress.
Okay. Nirmala ji, on the point of social media, I see that both the Congress and BJP, now increasingly regional parties, also have been reaching out to the social media in a big way to reach out to the young of the country. But it's one thing, Nirmala ji, for someone, to respond to a tweet of yours, agree or disagree, but it's a completely different thing for that person then to go to a voting booth and think in terms of casting his or her vote. Are you really confident, ma'am, that this discourse that we sometimes see on the social media, is this also, according to you, going to be reflected in actual hard electoral arena?
I guess so, because the involvement of young minds in the social media first engage with you on your issues, on your policy. They pull you up. They have no mercy. But they're right in pulling you up on policies because they question you as to where you are, how you're going to implement it, are you really sincere on it, and so on. So the hard engagement happens through the social media, even though it is 140 characters in the Twitter or in the Facebook. But once they're convinced about the arguments that you put forth, they are the ones who are asking us today, tell us how to engage, tell us how we can come and work with you, so that this convincing argument goes door to door and make sure that we make a difference during the 2014 election. And therefore, I think the engagement to be convinced about your policy through the social media is only to transfer their time and energy towards elections of 2014. So it will be important for the political parties to engage with them first and also to work with them together for the poll booth level transfer of idea into votes.
But Arif Mohammad Khan, is it just about 2014 or 2017? How do you ensure that in actual political discourse, the young of the country are genuinely involved so that we can then achieve the ultimate goal of having a democracy which is indeed participatory, sir?
To me, 2014 is not important. What is important? How we conduct ourselves so that we create, we inspire. I would say people generally and youth particularly, that they have this feeling of Indianness. They have this feeling of Bhartiyata. Unfortunately, we have the legacy which we have inherited from the British rule, divide and rule. For the colonial power, that was fine, because they had taken over India after the failed uprising of 1857. Therefore, they insisted that nobody can represent all the people. When somebody came to them they insisted that you talk about your own community, you talk about your own caste. But unfortunately, the political parties found this more convenient to mobilize electoral support, that instead of appealing to the good sense of the citizen, they started mobilizing communities. They started mobilizing groups. In fact, if you look at it objectively, what most of our political parties are, they are communities and castes with flags. We need to have parties which can really inspire people, which can present this ideal. I am an Indian. This country, not only this country is mine, I belong to this country. All people are mine.
What you're basically saying is you need to have a vision. But in conclusion, Rahul, starting first with you, let me request all of you to give me one big idea, one broad idea that you believe is possible for your party to implement to constructively engage with the young of this country.
I think it's not an option anymore, it's a compulsion now. I think every party that needs to remain in mainstream politics and need to have a presence needs to go with the youth. The basic statistics that you have today prevailing in the country, where you have the average age of the country falling to 29 in the next 5 years, you certainly can't do away with the youth. You need to keep them, you need to keep in contact, you need to keep in touch, you need to understand them, you need to work for them. And this will only happen when you have active participation of the youth in the governance system itself. The youth no longer wants to be governed, they want to govern. And that's the need of the hour, which I think every political party needs to appreciate.
Dr. Singhvi, how do you ensure what Rahul says? They don't want to be governed, but they have to govern.
No, these are not quick fix solutions. There's no magic wand, there's no magic button. This is an evolutionary process. It's an ideal. All ideals are good. And I think we have to try to approximate to it. I've given you the most concrete example, shorn of all adjectives and shorn of all ideals. The actual example is we've had at the primary level some 1.5 crore new people enrolled. Now there will be a time when they feel involved, much more involved than they were before. Some 40 odd lakh of them have held elective office. Now that again increases involvement. This has to be a continuous process. Look, the honest truth is that in our country we have a great democracy. We are the world's largest and one of the greatest democracies, but we are an imperfect democracy. You do not have, for example, election at the intra-party levels, at the booth level, at the village level, at the block level, which empowers people. That is an evolutionary process. It is happening. It will happen more. And as it happens more and more youth will get involved. I keep making a sharp distinction.
Yes.
Don't think only of the people you see in the stadium or in the urban areas. There's a large number of youth out there who need more connectivity, who are more alienated. At least all of you have a voice, have a articulation platform. Many of those don't. So we have to talk of youth in that larger sense.
How do you ensure, Nirmala ji, that you manage to strike a balance between the segment of youth that Abhishek Singhvi talks about and the segment of youth maybe which is represented here. How do you ensure that these sections of our society, our future in a sense, do feel engaged with the political?
Well, it's a very big effort. I don't think it's possible to just articulate it in few different words. But as a party, we are ensuring that at every level, we are interacting with young minds. We have invited them to use that which is accessible as a technology for them, be it the mobile phones or internet or whatever other than physical contact with our own karyakartas. We have very clearly said we are in a very big way engaging in crowdsourcing. And through crowdsourcing, we would actually want all of you all to give your ideas for us to work on it and then be able to be relevant for the cause of the young minds so that they can be part of our activity and not just stay away from it and say, oh, this party or that party is not doing it. We want them to be involved in everything that we do. And therefore we invite not only through technology but through physical contact as well. It's a long run process. We've started it now for almost 3-4 years. We will be engaging in all forms of ways with the young minds so that they have a sense of ownership about the BJP.
Okay, now those are candid words coming from Nirmala ji. Arif Mohammad Khan, final comments from you then. How do you believe that democracy in our country can be converted into a two-way process where whenever we speak about the youth or any other section of our community, of our country, we're not just looking at them as a block for a particular election. How do you ensure that entire discourse around policy making can be a long-term process where the youth are an essential bedrock?
I think I have already stated it that unless we change that colonial mindset and we start addressing, we make the politics, today it is, the focus is on the communities, on the groups. The need is to focus it on the citizen of India. Once we are able to focus it on the citizens of India, how can we ignore the young citizens? The young citizens are bound to have priority. But again, I would like to, even at the cost of repetition, I would say that young people, more than this future security, jobs, career, etc., they need some idealism, which can inspire them, which can imbibe values in them, and with that I would like.
And all right, on that note, thanks to all of you. The important takeaway that one gets from this panel discussion is just this, that if you really wish that the political class is listening to you, you also need to do something at your end. You also need to take steps to ensure that it can be a genuine two-way process so that it's not just restricted to stadiums or platforms like these, and it actually becomes a participatory form of our democracy. Thanks to all of you. Thank you all of you, and have a good evening ahead.
Yeah.